All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Joseph C has a question: how to get the hips going first? So first, it starts with getting a good weight shift. We don't want to be hanging back. We need to get a good weight shift to our lead side, and we need to start getting that momentum going forward in that last part of the backswing. So if you kind of get here and then your arms are flying in front, it's too late. The arms are just going to fly in front of your body. You're not really going to be able to get the hips rotated open. So what you need to do is get those hips going in the start of the very last part of the backswing. Excuse me, that was snuck up on me there. Get the weight shift going the last part of the backswing, and that's going to help you to get that pressure in the lead foot so you can rotate the body open. That's what I'd really recommend doing. The best drill for that is the step drill. And it's in several videos on the website, the step drill, but a good video that I think will help quite a bit is the how to start the downswing video. So in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see it says search this website. You can see where it says that, and then you can type the word downswing. And I believe it's about the fourth video down in the search results. The video is called How to Start the Downswing. It's got some yellow lettering in the thumbnail. That's going to be the one you want. And what you're working on in there is the step drill. There's also a lot of other great information in the video. But the step drill, what you're doing in that drill is you're starting with your feet together. And then as you are starting that backswing, you're actually stepping forward. And that's forcing you to get your momentum forward in the backswing, which is a difficult thing for you, for a lot of people to do. So it's helping you to get that proper feeling. And it helps you to really feel a lot of that pressure in the lead foot, because in the lead foot, that's where we really need to feel that pressure so that we can rotate that hip back and out of the way. Otherwise, if we're on our back foot when we're starting our club down, we're not going to be able to get that pressure in that lead foot to be able to turn the hips. So that's definitely where it starts for sure. All right. So John C says, forever I've heard the left side must pull to begin the downswing. Cannot the right side pull? Is there no way golf can be played with the right side doing most of the work? Surely, yes, it can, but it's not the most efficient way to play. And your trail side can't really pull. Everything's going in that direction. So the trail side, if anything, it has to push the club through. And sure, yes, you can play that golf that way. A lot of people play golf that way, but it is not the most efficient way to play. And it's not the way that the best players in the world play. It's not the way that good players play. It's really hard to be consistent. And it's really hard to get a lot of speed as well. Because if you're pushing through, you're usually going to be releasing that club early. When you push through, that club releases early. When you release early, you're adding loft to the face. You're going to, which is going to make you have less compression on the ball. So if you think about, you're taking an 8-iron and turning it into a pitching wedge, whereas someone who is de-lofting, pulling through with the lead side, getting that club to release out in front, they're releasing that club out in front. They're getting forward shaft length contact. They're turning that 8-iron into a 6-iron. So you can imagine the big difference there is there. And then you're also getting that whip through contact, which is helping you to get speed. If you're pushing through with the trail side, that's usually going to be casting. It's going to be burning out all that energy out here when we want that to be mostly at the golf ball. So you can absolutely play golf with the trail side, but it is not the most efficient way to hit the ball. And it's going to be very, very difficult to be consistent. It's hard to be good if you are using all your trail side to play. All right. So Bob L says, I widened my stance to try to limit my hip bump. It hasn't really fixed the hip bump. But now I'm hitting my irons fat. What's happening? What go change? So a lot of times when I see people widen their stance, a lot of times when people, they put their ball position in relationship to their feet. And it really needs to be in relationship to your body. I don't know if that's what you're doing, Bob, but if you were playing the ball, in a certain distance away from your lead foot and you widen your stance, well, that puts that ball further up in your stance. So that might be what's going on, is you may need to do any balls that are played off of the turf. you can play straight down from the lead ear. That's right where you can put, and that puts it a little bit ahead of the middle of the stance. So that may be the issue. And then what also may be the issue is that when you widen your stance, right, you may hang back a little bit more. So my compression line, if you we talked about the compression line. It's in the Tatsumi system. It's a line that goes from your lead ankle, lead hip, lead shoulder at contact. We want that to be all in a straight line, slightly angled away from the target. So if I have a very narrow stance, so now my feet are very close together here, it's a lot easier for me to get that compression line leaning forward. Whereas if I have a really wide stance, now I'm coming through, look how much more angled away. So when that happens, you're going to tend to hit, the club's going to bottom out behind where it normally would. So you got to find that happy medium that helps you the most. Now, just because you widen your stance, that doesn't mean that you're not going to bump your hip. You still need to get a proper weight shift, like I talked about in the first question. You still need to feel like you're pushing into the ground and rotating that hip back. It's not going to, just widening the stance and not doing anything else isn't going to necessarily fix the hip bump. Sometimes it can. Sometimes intuitively you will, turn more and not bump out as much. But many times that's not the case. You're just going to do the same exact thing you do normally. You're just going to have a wider stance now. So what I'd recommend doing is working through our compression line course. As I talked about just a minute ago, our compression line is the line that goes from our lead ankle, hip, and shoulder at contact. And we want that to be all in a straight line. So if you're bumping the hip out like this, that's not in a straight line, right? That's kind of in that C, that reverse C type shape. So the compression line course is going to get you to where you're able to come down, push into the ground, and rotate the body open. Allow the body to open up as you're coming into contact, and that's going to make that quite a bit easier. So to work through the compression line course, go to the top of the page there. Click on the house icon. It's a little house there at the top of the page. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see where it says Top Speed Golf System Course Progress, and it lists all the courses on the website. I believe it's probably 1/3 of the way down on that list. You're going to find the compression line course. There's about 20 total courses on the website, and you'll see the compression line course right there. All right. All right, so we got a question from Bruce F. Bruce F says, "Hi, I just got a new set of irons and want to adjust them to be consistent with my current gamers, which are," looks like he went on, 2 degrees flat. The new irons have stronger lofts and different lengths, making them effectively 1 club longer. So what I would recommend doing is, I'm not sure if he went on, I didn't really see any other thing else, but I'm not really sure what you're asking, Bruce, but I recommend taking them to a professional club fitter to get those bent. You don't want to ruin your clubs or anything like that. They have a special machine that they put them in, and they'll just kind of bend them to be, if you need them to be 2 degrees flat. But yeah, that's, a lot of times companies, when you order new irons, they'll do that for you as a part of the process. It might cost a little extra, but it's not much. It'd probably be cheaper than actually taking it to a club fitter and having them to do it on their machine. So, but yeah, I would take it to, PGA Superstore. There's all kinds of places where you can get clubs made. Your local club might be able to do it. Might have that machine to get it to get them in the right place. But yeah, you'll just need to take them to there if you want to get them to match your clubs. All right. So now I kind of lost my place here. So we answered that one from John Z, Bob L, Bruce. All right. So now we have Amy H. Says, "I'm glad to join as a member. Now I am a 20 handicap." Awesome. So glad to have you. Hopefully that keeps going down as you continue to work through the drills. Okay. Wish to become a good golfer. Yeah. So if you keep working through the system, 20-minute distance fix, maybe do the ball striking masterclass. definitely be trending in the right direction. We have lots of stuff that you can do to continue to improve your game. All right. So Richard G says, when I start my backswing with the driver, I find I get past 90 degrees before I have to either stop or start bending my left elbow. I think it's causing my high fade on the drive while I do pretty well with the iron. So he's talking about bending the lead arm. Now, it's okay to bend the lead arm a little bit. I wouldn't be too concerned with that. What causes a fade is the face opening to the path. So your arm bending is not causing your face to be open to your club path. You probably just need to work on maybe either swinging more into out and closing the face more. That's really all you need to work on to get that getting that face come around a little bit. So it's completely normal. A lot of times with the driver, because we play it further up in our stance, that club, as it's coming into contact, is sometimes moving a little bit more out to in as it's getting to the ball. So you may need to compensate a little bit and feel like you're swinging a little bit more into out as you're coming into the golf ball so that it doesn't get that fade on there. So, but a little bit of bend in the lead arm, excuse me, it's completely fine. Look at Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth, Lee Westwood, all guys with bent lead arms in the swing. That's going to be completely fine. A lot of people, they say, we need to keep this lead arm completely straight for consistency. But a lot of times that straightens out in the downswing anyway. And even if it doesn't, if it's slightly bent as it goes through, that's completely fine as well. But a lot of people, other people say is that we have to have this lead arm straight so we have a nice wide arc. Well, if I were to keep this lead arm straight, you can see that maybe that's as far as I can go. But if I bend it a little bit, now look how much further I can get. So it really kind of cancels each other out. If you have a little bit of bend in the lead arm, that your arc becomes longer versus wider, and really you get about the same amount of speed otherwise. So I would just do what's comfortable with you and get to where you need to go. Now, if you a lot of times people bend the lead arm as a way to get that club as long as possible. And that could be because maybe you're restricting your shoulders a little bit. So 90 degrees, that's at least where we want you to get to. I would try to be able to get a little bit further, and you may not feel like you need to bend that lead arm as much, and you kind of get the best of both worlds. Get that swing longer and get that nice wide arc. So I'd make sure that you're freeing up your hips, let your hips go so that they can continue to rotate in the backswing. Make sure that you're getting your shoulders as far as they can go, and that's going to help you to be able to get some good distance there. But if you're hitting fades with your driver, probably just need to feel like you're swinging more into out. So more, if you're a right-handed golfer, feel like there's a baseball field in front of you, and you're swinging the club toward first base, but the club face itself is pointed toward third base. That's what I try to feel like to straighten that out. And if you actually get to where you hit a big old hook, then all you have to do is just ease off of that feeling to get that ball to straighten out a little bit. All right. So Charles G says, I keep pulling my drives to the left. I have slowed down my swing in my left shoulder when it turned right. When it turns slightly right, sometimes helps. What do you recommend? So a pull is caused by your path being out to in and your face being in line with the path. So what we need to do, the best way to alleviate any issue in golf is to do the opposite. So what's the opposite of a pull? It would be a push out to the right. So how do we hit a push out to the right? We swing out toward, again, if you're a right-handed golfer, you swing out toward first base, and then you have that face in line with that. You also have the face out there. And then when you overdo that, if you actually get to where you're pushing the ball out to the right, then what I would recommend doing is ease off of that a little bit to get it to straighten out. That's really the easiest way to do it, the most intuitive way to do it. You may want to look at your spine angles. If your spine is vertical, so if you're vertical, I'm going to tend to want to kind of go like that. So if you look at it from this angle, that's me kind of going like that. When I go like that, my path is going out to in. That's going to cause a pull. So make sure that you're nice and angled away at address with our spine. and then we go up to the top, and we're nice and angled away there. So that way it makes it a lot easier to swing from the inside. If I go up to the top, if I'm vertical here, and I go up to the top and I'm like this, I'm going to want to go like that, and that's an over-the-top motion. So that's another thing you may want to check. But the easiest way, I mean, you'll intuitively get your spine angle more angled away if you feel like you need to swing out toward first base. So get that push going out to the right. And then once you get comfortable with that, just ease off of that a little bit to get it straightened out. And it'll be pretty easy to get those drives back in the fairway. All right, so Bruce had another question here. All right, So Bruce says, dying the course of fitting myself, I sprayed powder on the face and noticed a tendency to hit towards the heel. Actually, I'm a little more over the place than I should be, and I've been thinking I am dealing with path plane issues, not club adjustments. I have been trying to eliminate my sway in the backswing, and I think I may be delivering from too far from the inside. So that definitely may be the case. What I'd recommend doing is look at your swing on video. See if that club is working a lot from the inside, because you're exactly right. Too much inside to outside swing, into out, is going to make you susceptible more to the heel strikes. So if you imagine here, if I have a ball here, and imagine my hand is the club face. If my hand is coming in, my club face is coming in way, way from the inside, what's moving toward the golf ball? The heel of my hand here. Just like if you're swinging way over the top, you're going to be more susceptible to toe strikes, because it's just going to be hard to get a heel strike. The toe is moving toward the ball, whereas here the heel is moving toward the ball. So if we're swinging more down on plane, it's more the center of the face going right at the golf ball. So yeah, it may be a plane thing that's going on. A lot of times when you get different clubs, you mentioned you just got new clubs, maybe you're swinging them in a different way. Maybe you feel like because of the weighting or whatever there is going on with it, that you feel like it's more comfortable to swing in a certain way. So look at your swing on video. See if you're swinging that club way too much from the inside. It's very, very easy to tell. If you get your alignment here with the camera. So I would get that camera going right down your toe line here, right down your hands. You want to be about waist level. This is a little higher than waist level. This is about eye level. But get to where it's about waist level with the camera. Get far away enough to where you can see you and the club never leaves the frame. Use an app like V1 Golf so you can draw lines on there. But what you should do is go up, video a swing, from down the line. And then when you go back and look at your video, come down and pause right at contact there and draw a line going up the shaft. That's what's going to be called your impact plane line. So draw that line going right up the shaft. And then what you can do is rewind that to this part of the downswing. So you're coming here and look where that club head is in relationship to that line that you just drew. If that club head is on this side of the line, so if you have the line right here and this club head is way over here, that is indicating a very much into out swing. So I take a look at that. If it's on the line, then that's pretty much on plane, and you may just be hitting it off the heel. Maybe your hips are moving toward the ball in the downswing. That could be what's going on. You're coming down and you're doing that. If you're doing that, that's taking away space for the club to move through, and you're going to tend to hit the ball off the heel. It could be that you're swinging too much from the inside. It could be that you're too much on your toes. It could be you're standing too close to the ball. There's all kinds of things that could be going on there, but most likely it could be what you're saying there is that you're hitting it. You're coming too much from the inside. Now, one thing that can also help you is to actually, like we talked about earlier, a lot of times the best way to fix any issue in golf is to exaggerate the opposite. So we talked about to fix a pull, we try to hit a push. So if you're hitting the ball on the heel all the time, what would be the thing to exaggerate the opposite? That would be intentionally trying to hit it on the toe. So what I would do is I just set up the way that you normally would, and then intentionally try to hit it off the toe. Don't line up on the toe, unless that's the way that you normally do. But don't line up on the toe, because a lot of times if you just change the way that you line up to the ball, you're going to adapt and you're going to just hit it. You're just gonna hit it on the heel again. Then what do you do? Do you play it even further off the toe? It becomes an endless cycle. So play the ball off where you normally would, and then adjust your feeling to get the desired result. Now, what's likely going to happen if you get this strike, toward most likely what's going to happen is you're going to get that strike more in the center of the face. But if it's still in the heel, then you just need to exaggerate that feeling anymore. And maybe it's a little bit out of your comfort zone, so you're having your trouble getting yourself to do it, especially if you've never done it before, because it seems silly to try to hit a bad shot in order to hit a good shot. But when you're trying to hit a good shot and you're hitting a bad shot, that's what you have to do. So adjust your feeling, get the desired result, exaggerate as much as you need to. And if you overdo it, you get that ball way out on the toe, then all you have to do is ease off of that feeling a little bit to get it more in the center of the face. So that's what I would recommend doing for sure. But to really make sure that your clubs are right for you and they're completely fitted right for you, you need to go to a professional club fitter. It's not really something you can do yourself unless you have access to all the shafts. I mean, unless you're a professional club fitter yourself, right? I can't. I'm not a professional club fitter. I would not fit myself for clubs. I don't have access to all the shafts and heads and every little weight. I don't know everything about every little shaft and every little, I don't know all of those things. I'm a golf instructor. I help with the golf swing, not necessarily golf equipment so much. I mean, I know enough to get by to maybe help some of you, but I don't know as much as what a professional club fitter would. Just like they wouldn't know as much about golf instruction as I would. So you got to go to a professional club fitter to make sure that you're actually fitted for the clubs. Otherwise, you're just kind of guessing. All right. So Tim H says, "Hi guys, I started the 20-minute distance fix and instantly gained 4 or 5 miles per hour, largely because of the heel lift." Cool. So I've incorporated the heel lift into my irons and add some distance as well, to the tune of about a club length. However, with a lot of inconsistency. However, my driver is more accurate. Do you recommend the heel lift for irons? So that's really personal preference. So I'll tell you kind of what I do. I have a little bit more of a toned down swing for my irons. And I get this question quite a bit. So, but I have more of a toned down swing. So the way I look at it is your driver, you're trying to hit your driver as far as possible. You're not typically trying to hit your driver exactly, let's say 300 yards, right? You're trying to hit your driver as far as you possibly can. So taking a more aggressive swing, getting that lead heel off the ground to free things up so that you can get a big shoulder turn and be able to have more space and time to accelerate the club. That makes a ton of sense with the driver. With the irons, we are trying to get our irons to go a specific distance. Like we're trying to get a number, right? Typically, that's what's going on. Now, if you're hitting your irons off the tee or stuff like that, then that's different. But usually when we're hitting our irons, we're hitting it at a flag, right? Or we're trying to hit it a specific distance. So trying to get as much as possible is not necessarily always the best case. So what I typically do is I take more of a controlled swing that I can be consistent with as far as the length of the swing and as far as how aggressive I am with it. So that's what I recommend doing. But that doesn't mean you can't lift the lead heel. Look at Francesco Molinari. He lifts his lead heel with wedge shots. I mean, he's doing it on every single shot, essentially. So I wouldn't look at it as you can't do that. But it may also be that you just need to get more comfortable with it. If it's not something that you were doing before, then it may just need to be something that you're more comfortable with. If you're with the driver, the ground's not in the way, right? We're able to bottom out the club and then hit up into the golf ball. But with irons, we have to come down and we have to be a little bit more precise, and we have to get that ball first contact. So there's a little bit more precision there. You just have to find the happy medium that helps you to get to where you need to be. So you don't necessarily have to lift up your heel with the irons, and you can do it without. But I would just take the swing that allows you to get the most speed. Now, I will say, as you're going through the 20-minute distance fix and you're getting the neural adaptation from it, that in and of itself is going to raise your club head speed across the board, even if you don't lift your lead heel in the backswing. So that's completely up to you. But you got to find that happy medium that works for you. Some people definitely, if you're looking for distance across the board, then lifting that heel off the ground may be what you need to do. But for others, or maybe higher club head speed players, maybe it'd be better to, in order to be able to hit that number as consistently as possible and be able to control our ground contact as consistently as possible, we wouldn't maybe take as aggressive a swing, taking the heel off the ground to try and get as big a shoulder turn and get as much speed as possible, because we're trying to hit that specific number. So what I would actually recommend doing is maybe do a test. One, I would maybe try to get more comfortable with the heel coming off the ground. If you're hitting a club further, that's huge. So I would probably, in your situation, get more comfortable with lifting the heel off the ground and take note of whatever those inconsistencies are. So I don't know if you're chunking or thinning or big slice, big hook, whatever it might be. Find that, whatever that miss is with getting that heel off the ground with the irons, and try to fix that miss while also getting the heel off the ground. So let's say that you're chunking a lot of your iron shots. That's the inconsistency part of it. Is the tendency is to hit the chunk shots. So fat shots are almost always because of an improper weight shift. So I would just make sure, maybe even do a lot of them step drills, because that step drill is really good for getting that proper weight shift. Really make sure that you're getting to your lead side as you're coming into contact to make sure that you're getting that ball first contact. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Find whatever that tendency is, because if you're gaining a whole entire club, that's huge. If it's just a little bit that you're gaining, it's not that big a deal, but an entire club that's pretty big time. So I would try to get to where you're more comfortable with the heel coming off the ground, and then also find whatever that tendency is, because there's most likely a tendency. It's not always going to be, you hook one, you slice one, you chunk one, you thin one. That's not usually how it goes. It's almost always, there's an 80% of the time when you have a bad shot, the inconsistent shot, it's because it's this one thing. So I'd be looking at that one thing and getting that worked out as you're getting the heel off the ground. All right, so Kyle P says, when watching down the line views of my swing, my hands are much closer to the ball at contact than it's set up. I feel this causes a lot of inconsistencies in my swing. Any drills you recommend? So when you're looking at down the line, so at address, right, we're here. But if you look at from down the line and you have, if I angle this down a little bit, if you have forward shaft lean, then your hands are going to appear. So if you look here, here I am at address, right? So if I come down to contact, if I have forward shaft lean, don't my hands look a lot closer to the golf ball? So it's probably completely fine where you're at. I would imagine that you're probably not, because that's probably not the cause of inconsistencies. But I would say you're probably in good shape there. If you have forward shaft lean, typically at address, most people set up with that shaft pretty much straight up and down, maybe a little bit of forward shaft lean. Then if you look at contact and you have lots of forward shaft lean, from this angle, it's going to look like my hands are a lot closer to the golf ball. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're seeing on camera. Give me a little bit more information if it's not, but it sounds like you're probably in good shape where you're at right now. All right. So Ronald P says, Q, you recommend lightening the right leg or lengthening the right leg on the backswing to get more turn. Is it okay to straighten the right leg to start the backswing? Yeah, so it's all right for this leg to straighten out. The main thing is that we don't want to keep it straight. So, you probably heard, and I think a lot of instructors say, we want to keep this trail leg solid, because a lot of times what can happen is we kind of get it locked up here at the top, and then we kind of keep it straight. So the key here is to still be nice and athletic with this trail leg. You can let it straighten out as you go up the top, but we need to get that, kind of flexing down in the downswing. We don't want to keep it straight. We want to, straighten it out to push the hip back. But then in the downswing, we need to get this, because a lot of times what happens is we lock it out, we get it locked up, and then we don't really, we're not very athletic in the downswing. So we need to make sure that we're getting that to be bending down in the downswing so that you can rotate your body. So yeah, that's completely fine, but we need to bend that leg in the downswing. So we don't want to keep it straight, bend that leg and be more athletic in the downswing, so that way you can rotate your body. All right, so Salvatore S says, hello, Q. I had a very good response to the first video exercise in the 20-minute distance fix program, but was then directed to the Stable Fluid Spine program. Was I supposed to continue with the distance program or put that off until a future time? I guess I'm not really sure what you mean by directed, but I would recommend going through the entire 20-minute distance fix program, making sure that you're good there. You know, that's essentially, you know, if you go through the entire 20-minute distance fix program, then, you know, at that point, it'd be good to go to the Stable Fluid Spine. But I would make sure that you complete the entire program. It sounds like you just did the first video, so I'm not really sure how you'd be directed to the Stable Fluid Spine. You should continue to work through 20-minute distance fix. And I would do it as many times as you need to. You know, I wouldn't do it just the one time. You know, I would continue to work. If you're still wanting to get distance, I would just continue to work through those drills and make them more second nature. Continue to get that neural adaptation as you go through there, so your club head speed keeps going up and up and up. So that's what I would recommend doing. But once you get to where you're comfortable with the distance that you're at, and maybe you're getting to kind of where you're plateauing with the distance, you're not really getting any higher at that time, then maybe it may be time to go to Stable Fluid Spine and start working through the system from there. All right, so Tom D says, Q, would you explain the feeling of pushing off the left foot at impact, primarily the timing thing? So you should be getting some pressure in the lead foot at the very start of the downswing. So as we're going up to the top here, we are pushing into the ground here. We're starting to get some pressure. We're getting the momentum moving to our lead side. And that's going to start kind of in the arch of your foot, maybe a little bit in the balls of your feet, and then that's going to be going to the heel. And the feeling that you're going to have is almost like, the best way I can explain it is that you're pushing down into the ground and then also out away from you. So if you imagine, if I'm standing on a clock right here, and this is 12 o'clock on the clock, what I want to feel like is that I'm pushing down into the ground and then also pushing back that way. And that's going to help me to rotate my body open as I'm coming through impact. You want to feel like, it's almost going to feel like you're kind of jumping backwards. That's how much pressure you want to be putting into the ground. That's going to help you to clear your body open so that you are rotating through. But it starts with that good weight shift. You have to get to your lead side in that last part of the backswing. Get to where you're getting some pressure in that lead foot, so that way you can start the downswing with the lower body. Because if you're here and then you come down, you bring the arms down to here, and you're just now starting to get some pressure in that lead leg, it's too late. The arms are just going to race out in front, and you're most likely going to release the club early. There's all kinds of things that can happen there. So we want to make sure that we're going up to the top. That very last part of the backswing, we're getting to our lead side. Now, before my arms start down, I've got some pressure in my lead foot, and now I can lead with my lower body and really bring this club in here. You know, I can get in this kind of position right here where my hands are in front of my trail thigh. That club's parallel to the ground. If you don't start the downswing in the proper way, that club's going to be in this position. So, and then it's too late. You're going to end up flipping. So if I'm here, I continue to rotate. Now I get to contact. I have forward shaft lean. My body is opening up. I'm pushing down and out away from me. This is mostly going to be the feeling in the heel, and I can come all the way around into a nice full finish there. So what I'd recommend doing is, I talked about earlier about the how to start the downswing video. So that'd be the one that I would go work on that a little bit. And that's going to help you to get that proper feeling. It's going to exaggerate that feeling of that. So Tom, not sure if you were here earlier, but go search the word downswing. In the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a little box that says search this website. Click on that, type search or type downswing in there, and that will bring up some search results. in the search results, I believe it's the 4th video down. It's called How to Start the Downswing. And it's the video. It has some yellow lettering in the thumbnail. That's the one that you want. Click on that. Clay's going to go over the step drill and that one. And in the step drill, what we're doing is we're starting out with our feet together, right? And then we're starting that swing and we're getting our momentum moving forward. So it's really exaggerating that feeling of getting that momentum moving forward so that you can get that pressure in that lead foot the right way. So we need to get that going first as much as possible, and then you're going to feel like you're pushing down and out toward 10:30 on the clock, almost like you're jumping backwards, and that's going to help you to rotate that body open. All right, so keep the questions coming. So Thomas O says, you touched on fat iron shots, but could be more specific. It's my nemesis, just joined and love the program. So yeah, if you're hitting the ball fat, it's almost always because you are loading up improperly and or getting a poor weight shift. So what I mean by that is that as we're going up to the top, maybe we're kind of getting in this position where we're not staying behind the golf ball. We're kind of getting our spine angle leaning toward the target. And then what happens in the downswing is I'm going to fall away in the downswing and I'm going to hit chunk shots. So you want to make sure as you're going up to the top that you're loading up, you're staying behind that golf ball. Then that last part of the backswing, we're getting that weight shift to the lead side. And now I'm going to be able to get that ball first contact as you're coming in. We actually have a program, a course that's specific for topping and chunking shots. Really, topping and chunking are a product of the same issue. And really the issue is the low point, which is basically where the club comes down, reaches its lowest point, and then starts moving back up. We want that low when hitting shots off the turf. That low point needs to be in front of the golf ball, after the golf ball. And if it's before the golf ball, then the only way for you to really hit a good shot is if you have a lie that is where the ball is sitting up perfectly, and maybe you can scoot the club underneath the ball and hit up into it. It's just going to be very, very difficult to do that. So get that low point ahead of the ball, and that all comes with loading up and then getting that proper weight shift to the lead side. And that's going to be in our stop chunking and topping course. Thomas, the easiest way to get to that course is to go to the top of the page, click that house icon. When you go to that's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, when you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website. That stop chunking and topping course is right there in there. It's probably about in the middle of all that. Start working through the drills. So you're going to be working the step drills also in there that I talked about earlier. There's all these drills are going to be helping you to load up properly, kind of stay behind the golf ball, get nice and angled away as you're going up to the top, and then getting that good weight shift to the lead side so you can get that ball first contact. All right, so keep the questions coming. We got another 20 minutes or so on here. Make sure that my phone is on silent here. I think it was buzzing a little bit. All right. So Richard S. says, after impact, I remain overly connected with the lead arm, which seems to cause a loss of distance, as that connection worked well when my swing was very lateral, but new with me a more rotational motion. My left arm fold immediately after impact, making it hard to attain a straight line release. Can you give a drill to user to the left arm disconnecting enough to follow through properly? So the only place where it matters to be connected is at contact. Every other part of the swing you want to be disconnected. Otherwise, you are restricting your range of motion. So what I'd recommend doing is working through that straight line release course, because that's going to be helping you. If you're talking about in the follow through, that's going to help you to get everything releasing out in front. So there's actually a great drill in that straight line release course where we're putting a ball or a tee about 4 or 5 feet in front of where impact would be. And we're coming down and we're feeling everything releasing to that. So you'll do some where you feel the club head releasing to there. You'll do some where you feel the shaft releasing to there. You'll do some where you feel the hands releasing to that point. The arms, the shoulders, the hips, everything is going to be releasing out to that point. So allow everything to disconnect in the backswing. If we try to keep everything connected as we're going up to the top, it's really hard to get much, be able to create much space so that we can accelerate the club. If I'm like this, I don't really have very much space to accelerate the club. Now you can maybe be more consistent if you do that, but you're just not going to hit the ball very far. So you got to find that happy medium of being able to do that. So getting to where we can disconnect, get those hands up higher, that's going to help you to create more space to accelerate the club. And then the follow through, if we keep everything like this and try to keep everything connected, we're going to flip the club. We're not going to get that club to release out in front. So I would recommend doing is working through that straight line release course to get you to where you're able to get everything releasing out in front. To get to that straight line release course, go up to the top of the page there, click the house icon, and then scroll down on the home page there, and you'll see a list of all the courses. Go to that straight line release course. I believe that drill that I was talking about where you're releasing to that point out in front, I believe that's in the level 1 of the straight line release course. Work through that drill to help you get more disconnected away from your body. So Mike L says, missed a few sessions. What's the latest on the projector? So I tried setting it up and the lighting is just really bad. So either you can't see what's on the projector or you can't see me. So I got to figure out a way to get the lighting correct. So that you can see me and that you can also see the projector. Because if you see what's on the screen, then I'm completely dark and you can't see me really at all. And if you see if you see me, then you can't really see what's on the screen. So also when looking on the screen, I'm using the webcam that's on it's embedded in my laptop. It's not exactly like super high quality video. So I think I also need to get a webcam that's a little higher quality video so that we can get that looking at the screen and have that looking a little bit better. Because in here, when I had the projection screen on there, it looks perfectly sharp and everything in here. But I think because of the lower quality camera, it's a little bit harder to see. So we got to get the lighting figured out. We got to get a little higher quality other stuff going in. So unfortunately, it's not a high priority thing with all the stuff I got on my plate right now. So I don't know when we're going to be able to get that going. I was hoping it would just kind of be an easy thing. I can set up the projector and be able to start using it. But after testing it that first time, it just didn't look very good, and it wasn't going to be the best experience. So we just got some things that we got to do with it. But hopefully sometime soon we can get that working a little bit better. So we got another about 15 minutes or so. So go ahead and get your questions posted on there, and we will get them answered. All right, so we got a question here from Bob. All right, so Bob was talking about, he says he tends to lift up in the backswing. So um, here's something that I see quite often with those who tend to lift up in the backswing is that they are bent over the ball way too much. So if you look at me here, and I don't know if this applies to you, Bob, but just maybe something to check. But basically what I see is that they're very bent over the ball. So they're kind of like in this area here. And when you're like this, you're going to tend to stand up out of the swing. So that would be number one. I'd make sure that you're not bent over too much over the ball. Basically where you want to be is have a good little flex in the knees here, bend over at the waist just a little bit so that your hands are basically, 4 or 5, 6 inches in front of your thighs. And that's going to be about the best place to be. If you're like this, where you're way, way down here, you're going to tend to kind of stand up. So I would look at that first. The second piece would be trying to come up where you're not leveling out your shoulders. So there's a great drill that you can do. Where you get to where you're pointing this shoulder down. So when you're standing up out of it, what's happening? Your shoulders are leveling out, right? So I would get to where you're trying to get this club to be pointing down toward the golf ball. And this is an exaggeration, but it's going to help you feel exactly what we're trying to do. So what I do is I go up to the top and get that angle down toward the golf ball. That's going to force you to stay in your posture. It's going to feel like you're kind of pushing your backside out too, because what happens is a lot of times when you stand up, your hips are going that way, right? And that's leveling things out. So it's going to feel like if you are keeping this club pointed down, you're also pushing your backside out. Feel like you're almost like your back is up against a wall here, and you're trying to get your pocket here on that wall as you're going back. That's the feeling that you want to have. And that's going to help, because if I do this, if I kind of stand up with my hips, have my hips go that way, and I bend over. So if I do that, I'm going to fall on my face, right? So I need to, as I'm going up to the top here, get to where I'm pushing my backside out. I'm keeping this steep as I'm going up to the top, and that's going to help me to stay in my posture. And then I go through into the full finish as well. So I do several of those. We call that the shoulder to shoulder drill. Do several of those. Get more comfortable with that. Then let's take the club and let's do some practice swings where we are replicating that same motion. So we're pushing that club back. We're keeping our shoulders nice and steep here. And that's helping me from not standing up out of my posture. You're not going to see any tour players standing up in the backswing. You're almost going to see every single one actually get a little bit lower in the downswing in the backswing, and then a little bit lower even more in the downswing. Typically, you're going to see they get a little bit lower, and then they get a little bit lower in the downswing until they get into contact where they level out, and then they come up after they release the club. That's typically what you're going to see there. So focus on pushing the backside out, getting those shoulders nice and steep. Now, one thing I don't want to see that you don't want to do, which I see people often do when they do this drill, is that they cheat it a little bit. So they get up here, and then they kind of pull this club down. They're like, well, I'm angled down toward the ground. Keep it socket to socket. Keep it right across your collarbone, nice and level on your shoulders. If you're cheating it, you're only cheating yourself. So get to where you're getting that angle down and you're pushing that hip back, get in this kind of position right there, and that's going to make things make it a lot easier for you to stay in your posture. And you don't have to go to the range and do this. You can do this at home in your living room. You can throw on the news and do these kinds of drills when you're doing stuff like that too. So that's what I'd recommend doing. And that's going to help you out quite a bit to stay in your posture. Sorry, David, I didn't mean to skip you there. I didn't see your question. So David S. asks, when facing an uphill lie, I have a tough time making good contact on chips. So on an uphill lie, I'd move the ball just a little bit back in your stance and try to match your shoulders a little bit to the lie. So if you're in an uphill lie, don't go like this. Get to where you're angled more upward, kind of matching your shoulders with the uphill, and that's going to help you to hit more up the slope. So we don't want to get to where you're hitting if you're chopping into the slope. So if you stay kind of with your normal and try to kind of lean forward here, and you're kind of chopping into the slope like that, your margin for error is pretty slim. So what we want to do is get more angled away so that you can match your kind of the way that you're swinging up, along with the slope. And that's going to make it to be a little bit more consistent. If you move the ball just a little bit back, like a ball back in your stance, that will help you to make it more easy to get that ball first contact. So that's definitely what I do. Try to match your shoulders, kind of match your body to the slope so that you can kind of swing along with the level with the slope. It makes it a lot easier to make good contact. All right. And understand that the ball is going to go higher too. So the ball is going to come out quite a bit higher because you're adding loft. So you may need to hit it a little bit harder than what you normally would to get the ball to get to the hole. All right, so Salvatore S says, when making a making a practice swing, I am able to clear my hips and make a generally better swing. But when hitting a ball, I have moments of hesitation once my hips are square to the ball. Does any part of the program deal with this sort of problem? So one thing to keep in mind here is that there's a reason why your practice swings seem better than the swings with the golf ball. And that is because when you are taking a practice swing, all your focus is only on the movement. Your focus is only on clearing the hips. But when you add the golf ball, the focus is on hitting the golf ball. And not only hitting the golf ball, but hitting the golf ball with speed, hitting the golf ball with a square club face, hitting the golf ball, your strike location is important. Your club path, where that's coming down is important. Your ground contact, we don't want to hit behind the golf ball. We want to get ball first contact. All of those things are really, really important, and it kind of takes over. The other thing is that oftentimes in practice swings, people will send me my practice swing and say, why can I do this in a practice swing, but not when the golf ball is there? And almost always what I'll see is in their practice swing, especially if they're a flipper, someone that releases that club early normally, but then they're getting forward shaftly in their practice swing, is that club face is wide open. They've got their hands forward, but the club face is wide open. That's because they haven't learned how to square up the face. Now, in your case, you're talking about clearing the hips, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the release. So it might be that because you want to hit that golf ball straight, if you were to clear your hips and do everything else the same, you'd probably block that ball and leave the face open and hit a mile to the right. And intuitively, you're not going to do that. You're going to compensate and you're going to get that club face squared up at contact and most likely end up flipping and squaring up the hips at contact. So what we got to do is we have to learn, get the practice swing to where if the golf ball was there, then you would hit a good golf shot. So here's a way you can kind of tell this in your practice swing. If you're looking on video of your practice swing, because a lot of times, especially if you have a pretty good quality camera, you can't really see where the face is pointing at contact because the club head is just moving too fast. It's kind of a blur, but your hands are moving a lot slower. So typically you can see exactly where the back of your hand is pointing. So what I'd recommend doing is at address here, assuming that you set up with a square club face at address, what you can do is take note of what your hand looks like at address. Now, usually with your lead hand, you're wearing a glove, and you can see how much of maybe the strap that you're seeing, maybe how many knuckles that you're seeing at address. And you can see, okay, that's what a square club face looks like. That's what my hand looks like when the club face is square. Now, when you come down to contact and you see your hand like this, where the back of my hand's pointing way over there, that's an indication that my club face is wide open. So if you want to get to where you're seeing that exact same, so you can see there, square club face, I'm seeing the exact same amount of knuckles or the exact same amount of the front of my hand or the back of my hand, excuse me, the exact same amount as I was there. That's how you kind of tell if the face is square. So try to get your practice swing to look like it would be good if the golf ball was there too. And because a lot of times if the golf ball's there, you're not going to hit it well in your practice swing. So you kind of look at things and the movements are good, but what's going on at impact is the most important thing. So get your practice swing to where the impact looks good as well as the movements. And then you can move on to trying to perform that same motion with the golf ball, because you're going to react intuitively to trying to hit a straight shot. And if you do that, then the movement is going to suffer, right? So we need to learn how to get the right movement and get that club face square and get some speed and get to where, because a lot of times in practice swings as well, we're not swinging as fast as what we are with the golf ball. We're swinging maybe 80% at most, and maybe that feels like 100%. So using like a swing speed radar to get up to your normal speed to see if you're getting up to your normal speed, that's what I'd recommend doing is doing that. So work through that, get to where your practice swing looks the movement that you want, and it also has the impact position that you want. And then, face square, or club striking the ground in the correct place. You want to get everything as if a golf ball was there. It'd be a perfect shot, and at the right amount of speed. And then from there, I would bump that up to trying to do it with the golf ball. All right. So Daniel W says, "Hi Q. I tend to hit the ball thin and toward the toe of the club. Is this a lag release problem?" Most likely. Typically, if you hit the ball thin, it's because you're releasing that club early. Because what happens when you release the club early, you are coming into contact with a very, very shallow angle of attack, or you may even be hitting up on the golf ball. So when you come in very, very level or hitting up on the golf ball, you can only really hit it on the lower part of the grooves, unless the ball is like sitting up on the grass, like it's on a tee. There's room for your club to work underneath the golf ball. But typically, if you're hitting out of a standard fairway lie, tightly mown grass, there's no room for that club to work underneath the ball. So you're typically going to get those low on the groove strikes. So it could be lag, it could be release. I would just look at your swing on video and see what's going on there. If you see that you're casting, then you have almost no choice but to release that club early. So get to where you're generating some lag first, and you may still release the club early, but you will not be able to release the club out in front if you're casting the club. It's very, very rare, and even if you are, you're losing a ton of speed if you're doing that. So get lag, go to that top speed lag course, and work through the lag. Now, if you're getting lag, if you look at your swing on video and you're getting lag, then it may be you need to work on the straight line release. It may be that you need to work on the move as well, because if you're coming down steep, the move is all about getting this club to shallow out and getting that club face squared earlier, like what I talked about with the practice swings. People get that handle forward, but that club face is wide open. We need to turn that handle to square up the face, and that's what the move is. The move is shallowing out the club, squaring the face at contact, so we can get some good forward shaft lean and a square club face. So it may be that you need to work on that. It's hard for me to know exactly what the issue is without seeing your swing, but I do have an unlimited swing review program. I don't believe I have spots available right now, but if you'd like to go and get on the waiting list, you can find stuff or get an email whenever we open up spots, and you can sign up at that time. But if there is a spot available, you can check it out. If you go above there, you can see where it says learn more, or you can see where it says get a review. If you click on that, that'll take you to the page where you can sign up for that. All right, so we got a couple more. We got one more question here from Garth, and then we'll wrap it up from there. Bob says, great stuff. Thanks, no problem, Bob. So Garth U says, my hands are always in the wrong place at impact by a very small amount. Is there a tip to sync my hands? So exactly where is the wrong spot, I guess, is the question. If it's by a small amount, then you're probably in pretty good shape. But typically where we like to see the hands is we like to see the hands, basically, if you're looking from face on, right in front of that lead thigh. That's going to put you in a great position to have some good forward shaft lean. If you're like this a little bit, that means you're early releasing the club. If you're way out here, that just means that you're maybe getting too much forward shaft lean. You need to release the club a little bit early. That's fairly rare. I'd imagine when you say your hands are slightly in the wrong place, it's probably due to an early release. So that would go back to what we were talking about with Daniel's question. It could be that you're casting the club and you're releasing that club from the very beginning. You may need to work on some lag. It could be that you need to work on the straight line release course and get that club releasing more out in front. It could be that you're coming down steep and need to learn how to square up the face a little bit in the downswing. That's going to be the move course. So you can find all of these courses by clicking the house icon at the top of the page there. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see all of the courses that we have. Take a look at your swing on video, which it sounds like you have, and see where you fit in with those courses. See where you fit in with the straight line release. See where you fit in with the lag. See where you fit in with the move. See if you're shallowing out the club. See if you're coming into contact and you're pushing that club through. It might be the straight line release, or it could be the move course. So it's hard for me to know exactly what the issue may be for you, but it's most likely one of those things right there. And working through those courses will definitely help. If you want me to be able to pinpoint, like I said, you're gonna need to join my unlimited swing reviews. And like I said, I don't have spots available right now. Unfortunately, I have a limited number of students that I can work with. So go ahead and join that, and then you can have me look at your swing, and we can take a look and see exactly what's going on, get you on the right path. So again, thanks everybody for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow. Mike L says, "Good day, Q." Thanks, buddy. So yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time, for another hour session. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.